welcome to the show. This promises to be very entertaining. We're fresh off Christopher Bell pulling off a triumvirate of victories, 3 in a row for C. Bell as he won at Atlanta, COTA, and then most recently conquering Phoenix International Raceway. So we'll talk about that. NASCAR has options on tires because they couldn't stand the fact that the NFL had laid claim to the RPO, the run pass option. So NASCAR will go with the RCO, the run change option. So those are things that we're going to be tackling today. I've had a good weekend.
You have. Yeah. You started good, Hemingway, with For Whom the Bell Tolls there. You started good.
Yeah, we're out of the box quick. I did not have a good weekend as Alexis Erickson had showed last week when we got around to the portion of predicting the Phoenix winners. Quickly, your picks for Phoenix.
I will go with Christopher Bell.
Oh, for 3 in a row.
Whoa,
I know. Yeah.
That was good.
You almost turned red on that. Did you
That was
embarrass
good.
yourself by picking
That was
Maybe a little
good.
bit.
We'll see.
Yeah,
Right,
so
Gillie, what do you think about that?
I did a little bit embarrass myself because it came to my mind so quickly, and then after I said it, I thought, oh man, that's going to be hard to
Wait
do.
a minute. You can't see this, but hopefully you're watching.
Oh,
That's a standing ovation.
Standing
right there.
ovation.
Standing
Thank you.
ovation right
Thank
there. I just
you.
want to go ahead and give credit where credit's due then, yes.
I love it.
Brad, I think it takes a little moxie to go with 3 in a row.
I think it does. And look, I'm curious to see if this week Alexis might go 4 in a row because, look, Christopher Bell was the defending winner at Phoenix Raceway. But the last time we were at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Alexis, let's not forget, he was clearly the dominant car. And because everyone pitted in the final stage and Paul Wolf kept Joe Logano out, Logano went to victory lane. But I don't know. Would you be willing to go for 4?
Why not? Look,
Yeah,
here's the
love
thing. You know,
We're in Vegas.
Well, right. And it's not like it's, a track that Christopher Bell hasn't been known to run well on. So, yes, it's 4 in a row, hard to do. It hasn't been done since, I think, 2007, Jimmy Johnson. So it doesn't happen very often, but there is a chance. You're telling me there's a chance.
I can tell we're going to Vegas, and Brad Gillie's going to Vegas because he's going to, are you leaving your money there?
Right.
We're going to spin again.
Right.
We're going to spin again.
I'm
That's what
all
he's
in.
asking.
Right.
That's
I'm
what he's
all
asking.
in.
Yes,
I
we
love
are
it.
going to Vegas, and we will be spinning again. By the way, David Stiles, who works behind the glass here to help produce this show, did a little research on people that had done the 4-peat. So let's go back because we're going to be talking a lot about that.
So outside of, the Grand National Series in NASCAR where Kyle's dad, Richard Petty, won 10 in a row and then has done 4 in a row a couple of times, looking at 1972 and forward, we have 7 drivers who have won 4 in a row, but only 5 of them have won a championship.
Yes.
So Harry Gant and Mark Martin both have 4 in a row wins, but neither one of them won a championship.
In the same year.
Yes.
In the same.
So that's good because in the 70 some odd year history, what are we at right now? 76, 77, whatever year. There's only been 14 people who have won 4 in a row or more. And a lot of those are repeats. A Richard Petty, a David Pearson, a Cale. Some of those guys won 4, then won 5. Bobby Allison. Here's the interesting part I found. Because stats, you throw something out, I want to dig a little deeper. So I think Herb Thomas in 54, that I'm going way back. Herb Thomas in 54, Bill Elliott in 92, and Kevin Harvick in 18 all won 3 of the first 4 races. All won 3 of the first of the 3-4 races. So that is only 4 people have ever done that. Christopher Bell added his. None of those guys won the championship in the year that they won 3 of the first 4 races. So no one's ever gone on from this point and where he stands right now to win the championship.
And it's even harder in this format than in the formats
it's even harder to win a
yesteryear.
championship, but
Yeah.
I would argue almost that it's even harder to win 3 of the first 4 races than what those guys did too. I think this is a phenomenal feat. And listen, I had him out after 1. If we go back and you want to play my sound clip, I had him out after 1. So I think it's I give Christopher Bell tons of credit because he gets it done on the racetrack. But I give Adam Stevens tons of credit and what they do and those engineers before they get to the racetrack because they are all in sync right now. They show up fast, they stay fast, they make adjustments. My knock, if we go back to the first time I was on this show this year, I said the problem with C-Bell is he can win stage 1 and win stage 2. He disappears in stage 3. Well, somehow he's decided he's going to be up for all three stages this year, especially stage 3.
Yeah, he's not disappearing anymore. David, finish up that list of people that have done 4 in a row, so we have a little perspective here.
So starting in 72, so the 4 in a row winners, you're going to have 76 Kel Yarborough, and then you're going to have 81 with Darrell Waltrip, and then Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the first person to three-peat in the same year, and his second three-peat was a four-peat, and that was in 87, and he won the championship that year.
That's Dale
And
Earnhardt.
Harry
Dale
Gant
Earnhardt,
in
yeah.
91, Mark Martin in 93, and then Jeff Gordon in 98, and then the next one would be Jimmy Johnson in 07.
And that was the last.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Let's hear what the guy that pulled off the three-peat had to say.
It's surreal, and I will never forget 2021, my first year with Adam Stevens. Kyle Larson won 3 straight, and me and Adam got off to a rocky patch, a rocky start, and we're sitting in his office there at JGR, and he looked at me and he said, "We can do this." He said, "I've won 3 straight sitting in these exact same 2 chairs talking about him and Kyle Busch." And I said, "I know that we can do it." And it took a while to get here, but we finally did it. And I'm just so proud.
All right, so he's a happy guy. Brad Gillie, where do you put this as far as accomplishments in today's NASCAR?
I put this, look, this is right up there. And you know, Kyle said this, winning 3 in a row in today's NASCAR is hard. Let's not forget, since the advent of the next-gen car, our average number of winners per season has been huge. It's somewhere like around 16 or 17 different winners right now. So to win 3 in a season, which is something Christopher Bell did in the first half of 2024, I think that's a big accomplishment. To win 3 in a row is an even bigger accomplishment, and to start the season that way, that is a big, big deal. Right now, they already have house money. They've won a stage. They've won 3 races. They have 16 playoffs points, and they're climbing up in the standings right behind William Byron. So, you know, you can look at this from every single angle, and it's a big deal.
Yeah, I find it fascinating what he said right there. 2021, when he and Adam. So they've been working together 4 or 5 years now when you look at it that way. But let's remember when Christopher Bell came out of the Xfinity Series, he won like 90% of the races that year. He was the next great thing to come to the sport. He was the next, Jimmy Johnson. He was the next Kyle Larson. He was that guy. And it didn't materialize. I think that speaks to what Brad and I had spoke of before, how tough Cup racing is. You can look good in Xfinity, but when you come to Cup, it's a different game, and you've got to learn to play that game. And it's taken him 5 years to get where he's competitive and can win 2 or 3 races a year and then put a roll like this on.
I know Brad likes this topic, so I'll bring it up. And Alexis, I want to get everybody's feelings on this. Do we now have all the ingredients that it takes to have a real rivalry on the Cup Series? Kyle Larson was that guy for the last few years. You look at it, okay, he's a lock. He didn't even make the Final Four last year, but he still won the most races. Now we've got C. Bell making this charge, and those two have a history. Alexis?
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly say that. You could say that for the 2 drivers that, ended the race yesterday in 1-2 between their teammates, between Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin, solely because when you look at Joe Gibbs Racing, and I mean, there was all this talk about how they were winless for, a certain part of the season, the end of the season last year. And then, now Christopher Bell is the only driver that has won, I think, in like over a year at Joe Gibbs Racing. And you got Denny Hamlin that is, trying to make his way back to the winner's circle. So you have that dynamic. You have the Kyle Larson dynamic. I think there's certainly room for rivalries when you have somebody like Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin, who are so good and can play off of each other week in and week out.
Brad Gillie, can we sell a Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell rivalry?
Well, look, everyone thinks that's the natural rivalry, and it is because they come from the same background. They've gone toe-to-toe at the Chili Bowl. They've gone toe-to-toe in the Cup Series. They've had good days together and bad days together. Right now, the competitive rivalry, I feel, is between Christopher Bell and William Byron. Yeah. They finished 1-2 a few times already this year. Truthfully, if William Byron wasn't stuck on pit road when a caution came out, it might have been those 2 drivers battling to the end instead of Byron finishing 6th. But I think they're the 2 that have the natural competitive rivalry on the track right now.
Kyle, the only problem I have with a William Byron, Christopher Bell rivalry is the personalities. It feels like a pillow fight.
Yeah, it's like, vanilla bean or vanilla. You know what I mean? Where are we going to go? Which
Vanilla bean, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just going.
Bluebell.
I'm just saying. But they're both phenomenal race car drivers. And this and I don't even know what a rivalry is in the sport anymore because I've not seen a rivalry in so long. We keep trying to create one and try to put people in position for a rivalry. And I'm not. I don't think it's so competitive. One year, here's Christopher Bell, who's rising to the top at this point in time in the season, and 6 months ago it was Kyle Larson. So there's so many people that rise and fall and rise and fall. If we go back to Earnhardt, it was Earnhart, it was Petty, it was Waltrip, it was those. There was a guy on top. You were having to shoot off. You were having to knock off the top all the time. I'm gonna say one thing here, and you brought it up. I think the rivalry in the team is a place, and that is when it was brought up by Brad and him. I think that is. But I was yesterday as I watched him win that race. I also watched Denny Hamlin, who 6 years ago would have took that race away from him, who would have won that race. Denny Hamlin would have got up on the wheel on the outside, and he would have made something happen like Joey Logano does. Is Denny in a different place in his career? So that's kind of, as I look internally in that team, is it a changing of the guard? Does Denny have too much on his plate? Is it a different place? Because that first lap, the white flag lap, looked like the Denny Hamlin of old. The last lap looked like the Denny Hamlin we've seen lately.
That was a bit of my point too, is because on paper you look at the drivers at Joe Gibbs Racing, and you immediately your eye goes to Denny Hamlin as being the leader of that organization.
And he is.
But when you think about what has happened competitively on the track lately, it is certainly Christopher Bell who is making things happen. How does Denny feel about that? How does that rivalry, grow within the own organization? And we might not see it publicly because a lot of times those things are kept behind closed doors within an organization. But I definitely see that as being Denny Hamlin is going to go to the racetrack every week as he does with every driver, but he's going to say, man, I really want to beat Christopher Bell this week.
Denny Hamlin doesn't have a plateful. Denny Hamlin has that platter that your mom used to bring out the Thanksgiving turkey or the Christmas ham on. Yeah. That's what he's got, and it's overflowing with stuff.
And I'll say this. I know people don't think I respect Denny in so many ways and on so many levels. And as a race car driver, there is none better that's ever sat in a race car. And I don't think that Denny Hamlin has to win races week in and week out at Joe Gibbs to be the leader of that team. He's established himself as the guy. He's established himself as the leader. He tells them what to do. He points them in the right direction. He's still driving that bus in a lot of ways, from development in so many ways. But as Doug says, he's got so much on that platter, and he may have two platters. I don't know, man, because it's overflowing, man. He's got it everywhere. He's got so much going on. I think when you look at where he's at, you got to give him a tip of the hat to even show up at the racetrack and be able to put on a helmet and go do it.
I agree with that. Coming up, we went whole segment and did not talk about yellow and red tires. But guess what? We're going to do that next here on Fast Talk.
Motorsports isn't complicated. It's made up of races where you go as fast as you can, as best as you can, and as sideways as you can. Our team, Toyota Gazoo Racing. Toyota makes some seriously fast cars, and they all have great drivers, ones that win a lot. Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, they're all part of a big, happy family of speed demons. Now you're up to speed. You in? Follow the action at tgrna.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, LLC.
Whether your engine runs daily or only when you need it, Z-Max Micro Lubricant is the force you need against carbon buildup that can damage your engine. Combustion causes carbon and other harmful deposits to build up in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. And carbon is like sandpaper rubbing against your engine's internal parts. You don't want that. You want Z-Max Micro Lubricant. It soaks into metal and keeps your vehicle running at peak performance. Find out more at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter. Protect your engine to the max with Z-Max.
I'm Kevin Harvick, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Whether it's skating around the racetrack on a set of rollerblades or turning laps in a Legends car, join JC Fickenshire on JC's Garage.
All it takes is one win, and that one win can completely clear the driver's mind. I could even see it happening if Todd Gilliland wins a race or Noah Gragson wins a race, Zane Smith wins a race. These guys are guys who are just searching for one win, one chance.
JC's Garage, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey, it's Charlie and Debbie, along with NASCAR legend Kyle Petty, inviting you to join us for Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown.
Each week, we'll put it in reverse and take a trip down memory lane, looking back at that week's top 20 country songs from years past.
We'll dive into what made those songs and artists move the needle, what pop culture trends made those years unique.
And you'll get to hear me tell stories only I can tell.
So don't miss Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown right here each week.
Nice panel here today on Fast Talk. Kyle Petty, Alexis Erickson, Brad Gillie. I'm Doug Rice. Brad, before we switch over and talk about option tires and reds and yellows and all those colors, I do want to ask, is Seabell now on the verge of stardom?
I think so.
Whatever that
And
is.
you know what? I'm glad you asked that question because last year, before the season started, they had put out the 15 highest sellers of souvenirs from 2024. And you had Chase Elliott, you had NASCAR, and then you had all the other drivers. Chastain was fourth. I think Denny was up there and all of that. Christopher Bell didn't even make that list, did not even make the list of the top 15 sellers of souvenirs. I have a feeling when that list comes out at the end of 2025, he's going to rocket up there somewhere in the top 5, especially if he continues this trajectory. So to answer your question in that way, yes. To me, the most popular driver award is the one who wins at the souvenir trailers. I think Christopher Bell is going to be pretty far up there now.
You know, I even said this after the race ended yesterday. I think Christopher Bell, and you guys talked about Vanilla and Vanilla Bean and all that, he's getting a lot better than he used to be. Specifically when you're talking about, Doug, Brad, I know Kyle's had interactions with him. I've interviewed him on many occasions, and he is coming out of his shell a little bit. I do truly believe that, and I think winning, on the biggest. Yesterday I got out of the car and he's like talking to the fans and screaming, and he didn't used to do that.
Yeah, I think.
That's going to help him.
I think one thing that has helped him crack that shell a little bit was Martinsville last year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He got very
Absolutely.
verbal. He got very verbal. He didn't get a lot of smack back for it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So he's like, okay, I can expand. I can talk. I can show my personality. And I think that was a big step for him because before that, he was almost in Denny's shadow. He was always in Kyle Busch's shadow. He was in the shadows at Joe Gibbs Racing. His performance has put him out in front, out in the sunshine, as so to speak. But his personality has to come out there and meet him somewhere. So I think Martinsville helped him.
Why does part of me want him to show up one day at the racetrack and he's got a full sleeve tattoo and like a Rottweiler on a chain?
Yeah, that's good.
So I don't think that's going to happen. But for anybody who follows
That'd be good.
for anybody that follows,
That's a great visual.
That is
That's
a great visual. But for anybody that follows NASCAR Chasm, he has this picture of Christopher Bell sitting in his motorhome with his little dog sitting on his lap, and it's kind of like this, like I'm the king look on his face, and it is the most hysterical picture, and he has used it so many times. Please go and see NASCAR Chasm on Twitter because you will see the picture. But just in that picture alone, like there is personality there. We can mine some personality out of Christopher Bell, and I believe he is starting to, because he is getting more and more wins and being more and more visible, he's starting to get the confidence that he can say what he wants to say.
Yes.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think that's only going to help propel him, further up those souvenir charts, as Brad
Still like
said.
the idea of the Rottweiler.
I do
Tell
too.
you what, we're going to take a break, then we'll come back, and I promise, I know you're waiting, we'll talk about tires.
From fueling NASCAR champions on the track for over 20 years to innovating 94 octane, the highest octane on the market. Performance is what Sunoco does. All Sunoco fuel at the pump meets the same top-tier standards as the fuel used in NASCAR. From the track to your tank, you can trust Sunoco to help your vehicle perform at its peak.
It's not about the cars, the speed, the action. It's not about the party or the long weekend. It's about them, the ones that gave everything. This Memorial Day weekend, we honor the fallen at America's Home for Racing. The 66th running of the Coca-Cola 600.
I'm Joey Logano, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, this is Brett McMillan. If you want a show with no limits on opinions, join us each week for the Pit Reporters.
It proves that these guys are of the elite motorsports level. Being able to win the way that he did, I think means even more, that there weren't any fenders being put to anybody. And for those guys to show what they can do, to race cleanly, on a road course, they've certainly proved what they can do.
We're starting to see the top competitors become top road course racers.
Join us each week for the Pit Reporters.
It's not about the cars, the speed, the action. It's not about the party or the long weekend. It's about them, the ones that gave everything. This Memorial Day weekend, we honor the fallen at America's Home for Racing. The 66th running of the Coca-Cola 600.
Welcome back to Fast Talk. If you watched maybe more than 5 minutes of the race on the FS1 broadcast, you realized they were running two types of Goodyear tires at Phoenix. But it was the big topic because it determined how fast you could rocket through the field. If you put on the softer tires, all of a sudden for 20, 30 laps, you had superpowers, and then you became a mere mortal that has to change clothes in the telephone booth. But anyway, it was a big part of the story. Ultimately, everybody was on the same tire kind of at the end, and the impact maybe lessened a little bit. William Byron, who finished sixth, talks about it.
Just you have so much more grip and your balance changes slightly, so just felt like all the guys at the front were kind of at the mercy of waiting to put them on because a lot of guys in the back could take advantage and do something more aggressive. So for us, we just had to stay patient with them and then put them on at the end.
Brad Gillie, we had a softer tire. We had a tire that was just not as soft. We missed the Three Bears story by not having a tire. It was
just right.
Yeah.
I loved it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I truly feel like that was probably the best race at Phoenix Raceway, maybe even ever, because there were a lot of different things happening. But what I really liked is the beginning and the end. You took people who had struggled. Say Chastain qualified in the 30s. They used a set of option tires, and he drove right up into the top 10. You take a Joey Logano who has a penalty for, changing lanes, going on the apron before they cross the start-finish line on a restart. They used an option tire. He drove back up through the field. But on the flip side of it, when it came down to that final stage, those teams who had used one set of their two sets of option tires ended up paying the price on the back end, because while most of the other teams still had their full two sets left, some of these other teams were kind of struggling with the one that they had. And Chastain's team, they even put on a set of 20-lapped used option tires that didn't necessarily pan out. So not just comers and goers through the field, but strategy and compromise and all of those great things. It made the hard decisions even harder.
Alexis, you mentioned in the break when we were talking about this that you felt like it was the option, the softer tire, that maybe we don't need the harder tire.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in a perfect world, I think you just run the softer tire, and that's the tire. If the option is just the regular yellows and and an option tire, then I'm going to take that. But I would love to see just that tire be the tire. And you're still going to have those comers and goers. You're still going to have the drivers who can manage their tires and the drivers that don't manage them so well. I think yesterday, don't get me wrong, I thought the race was extremely watchable because you had all of these layers to it that you don't normally have, especially at Phoenix. I mean, if you look at what happened yesterday, the outcome is probably the same outcome we would have had there not been an option tire. Christopher Bell was the fastest car. Christopher Bell won the race. But because of having the option tire, we added drama, we added layers, we added all of these other things into the fabric of the race that gave us intrigue. So to that, I love it. But I wonder, I'm curious, say in maybe the finale, can we just see the softer tire and see what happens there? I think if we ran the option tire in the championship finale, there would be too many people balking that was quote unquote gimmicky, you know?
Well, yes. Yeah. And I will say this, the option tire and I agree with Brad, watching that Phoenix race, that was quite possibly and I've been going there since the late 70s. That might be the best Phoenix race that I've seen because it kept people racing all day long. There were people coming from the back. There were people fading. There was so much going on during the race. There were some great races, and they went to it on Fox a couple of times for the Lucky Dog. They were 4 and 5 wide for the Lucky Dog
Teammates,
2 or 3 times.
even.
Yeah, teammate. That's right. So there was some great racing going on around the racetrack that you could follow. And I believe the option tire created that great racing. It created it for all those teams because they had to, do I stay on the standard tire? Do I go to the option tire? Where do I go? At the same time, if I'm a fan and I'm watching it, I enjoyed that part of it. On the reverse side of the fan coin, it's just another strategy I got to try to keep up with in my head. You know what I mean? Why don't they crank the cars when they say, gentlemen, start your engines? Oh, they're already saving fuel. Why do they cut the cars when they're riding around? Oh, they're trying to save fuel. Why does this guy run 6 laps further than the other guy? Oh, so he only has to spend 4 seconds on pit road instead of 5. There's so much strategy that has come into the sport. It's almost hard for a casual fan to keep up with it and to understand it. They think they go to a race to see the fastest car win. What they do is they go to the race to see the best plan win. A lot of times, and that's the way it works out. And that's hard for a new fan to understand, but I truly, truly, truly enjoyed the option tire. And I know this was a mile track, first time we've seen it on that. I would like to see it at Dover. I'd like to see it at a lot of places, road courses. I'd like to see it at places like that where you get behind and can get caught up. I would like to see it implemented in a lot of different places, and let's see how that changes some of the game. You can always take it back. NASCAR gives you a rule. They take them back all the time. Why not take the tire back? But I did enjoy the option tire yesterday.
You know, Colin, I want to start with you. So many of these things, like the option tire, all of this stuff is sort of space dust off the All-Star race.
Oh, yeah.
They try wacky stuff at the All-Star race, and then, it worked, and we didn't take a chance on throwing away a points race. And here we have, what did they used to call the restarts? Shootout restarts?
Yeah. Shootout style.
Shootout
style. Double file restart. Shootout style, people.
Because before then, the lap cars literally were allowed to run
to the inside.
Run to the inside and start on the front wheel of every restart.
Yeah, man.
Can you imagine
It was
doing
great.
that today?
Listen, I drove there. It was great making up laps.
Yeah.
All you had to do was run the guy high and hope for a caution, man.
Well, that's
you
when
can make up some
they
laps.
awesome.
then they instituted the wave around, which
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I cannot imagine that happening today.
Yeah, and
Certainly
they do, but that's the best place. Listen, there's so many things in the sport. Before we've had the All-Star races, before we had some of these races to truly experiment, you can. And I will say this: you can't make a rule. You can't make a rule and send everybody to Charlotte and have them test and say that's a good rule because they don't run 100% in a test. You never know until they drop the green flag. When something's on the line, when a trophy's on the line, when $1's on the line, then they give it their all. But they don't in a test. So having these things and being able to pitch them out there and look at them, I like it. I like to be able to pitch it out there and look at it and say, yeah, that was good. No, let's eliminate that one.
And yesterday on the broadcast, Larry McReynolds said the ultimate goal is to get to where the soft tire can be the tire.
Yeah.
And I mean, to your point, you can't just test that soft tire and know that it's 100% going to be able to to hold up to what these drivers put it through unless you put it through something like they did yesterday.
And even yesterday, they talked a couple of times. Temperatures, ambient temperature was up, track temperature was up. The farthest anyone had run was 44 laps on Saturday. Would it hold up on Sunday? So there's that fine line that you're walking there.
Brad Gillie, what do you think? Do you need the harder tire to make the softer or the option tire effective? Or do you just run the option tire?
So I look at this a couple of different ways. All right, so what parts of the race were the most exciting? Obviously, the finish was, and we saw the people racing for the finish all on the same option tire. But I really like the comers and goers throughout the race. I like watching someone look like a superhero, seeing Ryan Preece out front, winning a stage and all of that. I thought that was cool. For me, I thought there was a lot more interest in the field, especially seeing someone being able to run up through the field when teams were on different sets of tires. Now, everyone had their plan A. A lot of those teams went to plan C, D, E, or F, whatever it might be. To me, when two teams or when multiple teams were on different sets of tires, I felt like that was a really, really entertaining part of the race, and it turned out to be entertaining all the way through when the leaders were also running on the same tire. So I want to see two. I want to see a choice.
I'm curious how you guys would have felt had Ty Dillon won that race yesterday.
I'm not worried about that.
I'm not.
No?
Either. No,
I don't see that.
Yeah,
as an option.
I mean,
because
he could have potentially had he not
finish.
gotten that speeding penalty.
He could have potentially had a good finish. Let me explain something. When you're not used to running up front, your pit crew takes you out of it almost every time. Almost every time. You'll get dropped back to fifth. You'll get dropped back to sixth. He's not. Their pit crew. I love those guys, but they're not going to go head to head with the Gibbs organization. They're not going to go head to head on pit road with those other guys. They're just not. So I don't worry about that. What I look at is, and Brad brought it up, is the potential for teams like a Ryan Preece, teams like Ricky Stenhouse, teams that they can run up in there, and they ruined your day, Alexis, because they jumped up in there on the option tire and took stage points away from you, which you were counting on. I was counting on as a playoff driver. I was counting on as a driver trying to move ahead. And all of a sudden, here comes a guy from 33rd to run and lead this thing. From 33rd, he drives through the pack. I mean, it was fantastic to watch. But he took stage points from guys like a Joey Logano. He took stage points from these other guys, other teams. And that doesn't seem like a lot. But it's a hell of a lot when you get to that point in the year where you miss moving to the next round by one single point. It's a big deal.
Ty Dillon wound up 16th yesterday. I think on any other Sunday, they would have been celebrating down in Welcome. But you're right, Alexis. They played it, and they were the only team with the freshest set of the soft tire at the end. They might have snagged themselves the top 5.
Yeah.
And then that speeding penalty just erased
penalty
everything. Yeah.
Sends them back to finish 16th, which on a normal day, that team would have really been happy with. By the way, this show is brought to you in part by Sunoco. From NASCAR to your car, Sunoco Fuel helps your car reach peak performance. We still got to talk about heading to Las Vegas and a little green flag, black flag action.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive, and I'm here to tell you why you should shop Echo Park before you buy a car, truck, or SUV. Over half of inventory at Echo Park is priced below $25,000. And car for car, truck for truck, Echo Park Automotive's pricing is $3,000 less than the competition. Maybe that's why Echo Park has over 95,000 five-star reviews. Echo Park Automotive is built to make sure you drive away happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
Hi, it's PRN's Brad Gillie. Did you know you could take PRN with you anywhere? That's right. By downloading the PRN mobile app, you can listen to our live race broadcast from anywhere. Make sure you don't miss a second of the action from the track. Download today for station listings and on-demand access to your favorite studio shows like Fast Talk, The Pit Reporters, or Garage Pass. Get all the latest racing information at your fingertips with the PRN mobile app. Download today, available in the Apple App Store and on Google Play.
I'm Chase Elliott, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Hendricks on the inside. Byron in the middle. Chastain up high.
Hamlin now beginning to come to the front. He's got the edge now. He'll take the lead away.
Brian Blaney sliding down into the grass. There was a lot of bumping and grinding. And Blaney noses into the infield retaining wall.
Ross Chastain doing a great job. Truex right there, big in his mirror as they race down the backstretch here. Harrison Burton is spinning down the back straightaway. Everybody going to the top side. Here comes Kyle Larson. Larson dives to the bottom of the racetrack. He wants to lead all four.
Chris Buescher has the advantage and a spin off of turn 4.
Yeah, we've got a ton of cars that are in this one, and Larson is certainly one of those cars. Trouble coming out of turn 4. Hamlin is sideways. The car spins down on the apron of the racetrack. Byron takes that brightly painted number 24 to the front. He gets a big shove from Daniel Suarez.
This is PRN.
Time now for the Toyota Performance Report, brought to you, not surprisingly, by Toyota. For the latest Toyota Gazoo racing information, visit TGRNA. Okay, after many, many years, I finally memorized the tagline for the Toyota Performance Report.
And they changed it.
Now that's all gone. I used up all that brain power for nothing.
But you get to say Gazoo.
I do get to say Gazoo.
They're just trying to keep you on your toes.
Oh, is that it? Well, that's what it takes. Okay. Anyway, Toyota all over the board yesterday. They were the Alpha and the Omega. The Alpha was Christopher Bell. He won. Denny Hamlin finished second. Back in 14th was John Hunter Nemechek. Eric Jones was 18th. 20th, Tyler Reddick. 25th, Oy vey, Ty Gibbs. 29th was Bubba Wallace. Chase Briscoe was 35th. And Riley Herbst rounded out the Toyota Performance. He finished 37th. That's your Toyota Performance Report, and we are appreciative of Toyota's sponsorship of this fine radio program. Before we get into looking ahead to Las Vegas, I want to give a tip of the hat to the guy that finished 4th yesterday. Best run for the Wood brothers in a long time. Let's hear from Josh Berry.
You know, I just felt like myself again out there, honestly. It's been, we've been grinding the last year or so, and it's just, this group's been, great for me. And I've really, enjoyed getting to work with these guys and having some great teammates out there like Joey and Ryan to lean off of and learn from. And, I feel like this is just the first of many, really. This is the standard for this 21 team. We feel like we can run up here. And we just got we got some things to iron out. But all in all, it was a really solid day.
Nice run for the Wood brothers yesterday, Alexis.
I think the biggest thing to notice from the run yesterday for the Wood brothers is that Josh got a great qualifying effort. He started 4th, which is where he finished, but that's not how he didn't start there and stay there all day. They had a really bad pit stop. I think he wound up back in like 32nd or something like that, and they were able to grind and work their way back up to where they should have been, to where they qualified. So I think that shows in itself more than just the fact that he ran in the top 5.
Kyle, I know you have a deep appreciation for the brothers Wood.
Yeah, for Eddie and Lynn and Kim and all of them up there, man. I was so happy for them yesterday. And I'll go back where, Daytona's its own race, and they ran pretty solid at Daytona. They went to Atlanta and were a factor in Atlanta. He's not a road racer, admittedly. He says it. So they go to COTA, and he's just kind of there. But to put 3, and if we go all the way back to the Coliseum, all the way back to Bowman Gray, he ran well at Bowman Gray. Yeah. So let's go back to that. So if we look at the first 3 or 4 races of the season plus Bowman Gray, I mean, they have been up front, running in the top 5, running in the top 10, pretty consistently in at least 4 of those 5 races that we've run.
Brad, I like this in the fact that it kind of pays off the thing that we've talked about Josh Berry all along, being a short track ace.
Yeah, and he is for sure. And here's what I like about this is that I feel like that Wood Brothers 21 now has a driver behind the wheel who can fully take advantage of their alliance with Team Penske. Like he said, he talked about being able to lean on his teammates, Joey and Ryan, and so on and so forth. I think not only can he lean on those people and Austin Cindric, I think he can also contribute to the whole. And let's not forget, we go to Las Vegas this weekend. Josh Berry won Xfinity Series races there when he was with Junior Motorsports, even as a part-time driver. So this might be a back-to-back great weeks for that number 21.
Brad, you just mentioned Las Vegas. I feel like there was a time when we went to these 1.5-mile ovals that people went, oh, no, and they got their Pepto out and just suffered through it. I don't think that's the case anymore.
No, and look, I think Las Vegas, Kansas are a couple of tracks. They have the progressive banking on them, and they race really, really well. Las Vegas has the bumps to it and everything, but the next-gen car, I mean, look, let's be honest. Whenever they, shortened up the rear end and you didn't have these big, huge rear quarter panels that dropped to the ground that saved a driver when they got sideways, now you have a car that's hard to handle. And when the car is hard to handle, they're going to have to manage what they do. And it is vastly improved racing on 1.5-mile tracks. And look, that shouldn't be lost. We're talking about how great short track racing has become once again. The mile-and-a-half racing hasn't fallen off, and we've seen how great that's been with this next-gen car also.
Kyle, a guy that I know that you know pretty well, this will be his last race as general manager at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Chris Powell heading off to retirement.
That's crazy, man. It seems like he's been there from the very beginning. It feels like it, when you look at it. And I've known Chris. We have to go all the way back to R.J. Reynolds' day when he pulled a show car. So let's go all the way back to show car days. You know what I mean? But it has been, he and Jay Bird up at Bristol, and we look at so many of those guys. That Curtis Gray at Homestead that came out of the R.J. Reynolds group and came out of that group and made that transition into running tracks and being a part of the sport. I think Chris is going to be missed.
Alexis, I feel like Vegas now has cemented its spot. And even though in a day that people talk about not having two races at the same track, I sort of feel like Vegas has earned that.
They have. I mean, when you look at the facility, obviously the Neon Garage, everything that they have there for fans, I think it's, it is the standard in some cases. And then you look at just the fact that Las Vegas is such a tourist destination. So you have the ability to attract people twice a year, whereas most of the time when you're talking about other markets, it's people living in those markets, not people traveling to those markets, where that's a little bit different with Las Vegas. And
I will say this is I've ridden motorcycles through Utah and Nevada and Northern California and Washington and Oregon. Those people, that's their home track.
Right.
That's where they go. And that is huge. That is huge. When you're riding motorcycles around and you'll pull in a gas station and see a Denny Hamlin T-shirt or somebody with a hat, you start talking to them, they go to Vegas. They go to Vegas. If they're dropping a green flag in Vegas, they're sitting in the grandstands in Vegas. So Vegas is really important. I know we're so blessed to live on the East Coast and be within 250, 300 miles from 1,000 different racetracks. But out there, they're few and far between. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's
okay. That is a huge market for those people out there.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, you talk about like football and you'll say like this team has fans that travel well. Well, in that area, there are fans that travel well and they will go, quite a distance to experience what Las Vegas Motor Speedway has to offer. And I think it's because they offer great racing in a great environment.
A lot of folks drive in from California.
Yeah, but a lot of folks are driving all over America from California right now. But they're just staying when they get there. That doesn't mean anything.
They're driving
sorry
in
about
from
that.
California,
Sorry about that,
not back to. All right, we got to take a time out. And time for a little green flag, black flag.
From fueling NASCAR champions on the track for over 20 years to innovating 94 octane, the highest octane on the market. Performance is what Sunoco does. All Sunoco fuel at the pump meets the same top-tier standards as the fuel used in NASCAR. From the track to your tank, you can trust Sunoco to help your vehicle perform at its peak.
Imagine the roar of the engines, the smell of burnt rubber, the electrifying energy of the crowd. It feels like America. It's the Food City 500 NASCAR Weekend, April 11th through the 13th. It's racing the way it ought to be. This year, it's a triple-header weekend with the thrill of trucks, Xfinity, and Cup racing packed into 3 heart-pounding days. Visit BristolMotorspeedway.com for tickets and details.
I'm Eric Jones, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Where's his place in all of this?
So I look at Jimmy Johnson, and maybe I have a little bit different perspective because I grew up with Richard Petty while he was winning all of his championships and stuff. And it was tough. It's tough to win championships. I mean, so many great drivers, as we go back in time, won lots of races and never won championships. So many great drivers won lots of races, never won Daytona. Those big moments, they just couldn't get over that hump. So to win 7, no matter how you win 7, is amazing. I believe, and I have said this a million times on a million different occasions, Jimmy Johnson's 5 in a row is the most underrated record in all of sports. It gets very little attention. Very little attention. We talk about Tiger Woods winning all these majors. We talk about Michael Jordan and LeBron James. You talk about everything that Richard Petty has done, everything Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s done. 5 in a row. Nobody's done 5 in a row.
Doug Rice along with Alexis Erickson, Kyle Petty, Brad Gillie here on Fast Talk. I love it when we have the 4-panel shows. It's a lot of fun. I do want to say one thing editorial about this show. We try to have a little bit of fun and go places maybe that other racing programs don't go. We're not as hardcore because this is carried on a lot of terrestrial radio stations, and we want to appeal to those folks that might just be casual race fans also. And also, if you're a big social media person, God bless you. I love it. I enjoy my time there. We're also not going to be the cesspool that X or Twitter has turned into, that everything is awful and the world is about to end in the next 8 seconds. It very well might, by the way. But we're not going to concentrate on that.
Well, of course not. We have Brad Gillie, who is the optimist's optimist.
I was going to say, I was enjoying the positivity coming from
Yes, I thought Brad actually wrote "Here Comes the Sun" for the Beatles.
He may have,
even though it was published 30 years before his birth. All right, let's. What are we doing?
It's time for another edition of Green Flag, Black Flag.
I want to do this, but I'm a little nervous about the world ending in the next 8 seconds.
Well, it's already been
now.
8 seconds. You're good right now.
Okay, got time.
You're good.
Time. Let's get these in. Carefully prepared statements. Our panel will mull each of these over. If they agree, they give it a green flag. If they disagree, it gets a black flag. All right, we also have something for when they're all of one mind. Here we go. I'll start with Papa Doug.
Gotta wake up.
Papa Doug.
Yeah. might be time for Ty Gibbs and the 54 team to start reaching for the panic button.
Oh, I think it's way past time. If they're not panicked by now, they're never going to be. Alexis?
Yeah, green flag. Look, I understand we're only 4 races into the season. It's a long regular season. But when you go back, I think, 5 races at the end of last season and 4 races, so 9 races total. I think their average finishes in the 30s, which is just incredible. So, yeah, I would reach for that button and push it immediately.
Kyle, how about you?
Green flag. Because I just think you've got to stop the bleeding at some point in time. You've just got to establish. And if your beachhead is 35th, which that's where it appears to be for them, at least try to get me a 30th. Try to get me he had a terrible day yesterday, and it was the best finish he's had in the last 10 or 12 races. You know what I mean? But he didn't finish. But that's a whole nother issue. But you just got to establish a beachhead and try to build from there. Don't swing for the fence every week.
Brad Gillie.
Green flag all the way. And then if you can hit the panic button, and if somewhere behind it there's a don't panic button, meaning you need to make some really good decisions on the racetrack, they need to find that too.
That's a lever. Yeah.
Oh, lever. Okay, thank you.
Pull the big lever.
That's an ejection lever, like on a fighter plane.
Yeah. Eject.
Here we go to Alexis Erickson. More races. Let's just go ahead and say it. More races could benefit from the option tire.
Yes, green flag. I think so, absolutely. Because like I said, if my option, pun intended, is only the yellow tire and having the option tire mixed in, I'm going to go with that every time. There's some tracks where I just don't think it would work, or I don't think we need it, which is intermediates. I don't think you need to use it on intermediates at all. That racing is already so good. But there are plenty of places where I think we can implement it and make the racing even more exciting.
There you go, Kyle Petty.
Yeah, I think the way you worded the question there, or the statement, whichever we're calling it, is golly, man. So I think fans could benefit fans will benefit from the option tire. You'll have to ask the drivers whether they benefit from it or not. But yes, I think the racing on the racetrack for the fans would benefit.
Hey, Brad?
I would say green flag, 100%. And instead of painting the letters yellow or red, paint the whole sidewall of the tire yellow or red and make the letters in black relief. So you still get Goodyear, but I want to see more red. I want to see more yellow. I want it more easily identified.
Doug Rice.
I'm just mesmerized by Brad's idea of red and yellow sidewalls. I love that. Yeah. We need more option tires. And I want to give Alexis credit that the fact she said pun intended, because everybody else is, that was unintentional. But you
no, it was
good.
intended.
I love that. Yeah, way to go.
Wow.
All right. Kyle Petty, this one's for you. Forget one option tire. We should have 3 choices every week. 3.
Yes, we should have 3. I'll give that green flag. 1 in the trunk. But you got to take it out of the trunk, and you got to figure out where to play. No, I'm not giving it the green flag. I'm giving that a black flag. Do not get. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, please, that's a black flag. Two options are enough.
Brad Gillie.
I'll go green flag, just because I like the chaos.
Doug Rice.
I heard enough about reds and yellows. I can't add a third color.
Alexis.
Yeah, black flag. It's hard enough for me to chase my toddler around and keep up with one option tire.
That's right.
During the race that it is for
I'm with you on that
2
one,
option
Alexis.
tires
I'm
or
with
3.
you.
So no, thank you.
All right, we'll go back to Doug Rice for this one. Headed to Vegas, a true betting man or woman would let it ride. And let's bet on Christopher Bell for 4 in a row.
Leave it out there, baby. That thing's going to hit again.
Yeah.
I'm only playing 20 when I go to Vegas on the roulette wheel.
There you go.
I always play 20 anyway, so it's not a stretch.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
I'm going all in. Green flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go green flag, but I'm going to bet a little bit on the side on red and black. Just so I got something for dinner, man. I got to get something for dinner, man.
There you go. Brad Gillie.
Green flag. Push them all to the middle.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. That's got it. Doug Rice, back to you.
All right, man, now you got me excited. I'm going to go over to the roulette table and hit that 20, man. Come home fat.
That's it.
Well, I don't need to go to Vegas to come home fat. Anyway, what are we going with
We
this?
have lost the show. It's official.
By the way, I will be making a cameo. I'm going to Vegas to work the public address assistant for
All
Jeff
right.
Motley and Chris Powell and the folks out at Las Vegas. I'm not working it. I'm just talking on it.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's long days, though. I was able
All
to
long
cheat and
days.
skip out some when I was doing radio. They chained the poor PA announcer
I
up
wish
there.
everybody could have been in here when Brad was telling you the schedule.
Yeah. You're working an awful lot for a retired
Do
man.
you realize that there is a 7:30 a.m.? I had no idea that there was that time of day.
Yes.
Hey, that's like 10:30 a.m. to your body clock. Well, maybe
That's
not because
true.
we did just go through a time change,
that's
so
right.
you're in a time warp
Well,
this weekend.
let's do the time warp again. We'll take a break, come right back with one
When it
last
comes to
thing.
maintaining your engine to run at peak performance, trust Z-Max Micro Lubricant. Z-Max soaks into metal, so it's easy to add to your oil or gas to disperse carbon buildup in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. Protect your vehicle's engine to the max with Z-Max. Check us out at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter to find out more about our full line of products. Remember the name Z-Max for your car, big rig, small engines, firearms, and more. That's Z-Max Micro Lubricant.
Motorsports isn't complicated. It's made up of races where you go as fast as you can, as best as you can, and as sideways as you can. Our team, Toyota Gazoo Racing. Toyota makes some seriously fast cars, and they all have great drivers, ones that win a lot. Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, they're all part of a big, happy family of speed demons. Now you're up to speed. You in? Follow the action at tgrna.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing, LLC.
I'm Austin Dillon, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
If you have a chance to make a difference in a kid's life, you need to take full advantage of that opportunity.
For those kids to know somebody has their back, somebody is caring about them, thinking about them when they feel like nobody is.
Anything that I can do now to support Speedway Children's Charities, I do because I've seen the work firsthand.
We owe it to children, no matter where they come from,
Unfortunately, there is no end to some of the terrible atrocities in our world. Speedway Children's Charities can feel really good that we are getting the most good out of every dollar that's given. At Speedway Children's Charities,
Our mission
is simple.
help every child we can.
Because all children
deserve joy
and hope
And love.
And if one child is still in need,
Then there's still work to do.
because their future is our future.
and there's still so much they can teach us.
Find out more at speedwaycharities.org.
Been an extremely fun show from this perspective. Thanks a lot for making us a part of your weekly listening. Let's move on to this transition.
One last thing.
Last thing that we want to talk about can be anything, can involve racing, can involve the world at large. Wherever you want to go, we will defer to Brad Gillie.
Well, we talked about the panic button in green flag, black flag. And I would say don't hit the panic button if your favorite driver hasn't done much of anything yet, because really it's been the Christopher Bell show throughout most of this season. If you're a Keselowski fan, he's 33rd in points. We're only 4 races in. We still have 22 more to go before we get to the playoffs and plenty of opportunity. So if your driver is way far down, yes, they're going to have to make up some ground. All of that could be cured with the trip to victory lane. But don't hit the panic button just yet. Let's give it a few more races, and then we'll start talking about all the chaos in the point standings.
But if you're really struggling right now, you might want to dust that puppy off. Kyle Petty, one last thing.
I didn't have anything when I come in here, and thanks to David and thanks to C Bell, and I said it before, 14 guys in the history of the sport have won 4 races in a row. Incredibly rare air. Of all the records in this sport, there's only that many people, and we as fans are fortunate. Whether you like C Bell, whether you pull for him, doesn't make any difference. If he goes and wins 4, you're witnessing history. You're witnessing a huge moment in the sport where he adds his name to the list of Richard Petty and David Pearson and Bobby Allison and Mark Martin and Cale Yarborough and people like that. And that is a huge honor for a driver, for him personally. So I said it when Jimmy Johnson won 5 in a row. The most underrated record in sport is that 5 in a row as far as I'm concerned. But to be able to witness a driver in this day and time do that 4 in a row would be a huge feat and something that I would remember for a long time.
So when I came in here, I didn't have anything at all either. And the difference between me and you is I haven't really picked anything up in the hour we've been on this show. So I will say that daylight savings time is cruel and unusual punishment for toddler parents. I will say that. And then I will also throw to this picture that I talked about earlier. Christopher Bell, if you're watching on any of our social channels, YouTube or X or Facebook, the picture of Christopher Bell sitting in his motorhome with Sadie on his lap is priceless. You know, just the way he's sitting there, his stance and everything. If you can, I know this is a radio program, so if you can, please go on X and look at NASCAR Chasms. Many memes of this photo. I promise you it will brighten your day.
It's a white little poodle type dog sitting on Bell's lap, and he looks like he just got home from 8th grade.
Well, but it's the best. It's the best.
Oh, that's good.
I'm going to say this. Ryan McGee from ESPN, good writer, by the way, posted this today, and it was talking about all the things that Christopher Bell has done. 12 Cup Series wins now, 19 Xfinity wins, 7 truck wins. He's won the Chili Bowl 3 times. He's a USAC midget champion, and now he's won 3 straight races in a row. Maybe, just maybe, it's time we kind of elevate our thought process a little bit on C. Bell, and he's actually kind of developing a personality that I think people can hatch into. We may be on the precipice of having a new, really big deal in the sport of NASCAR, and that is always exciting. Way to go, C. Bell. Go ahead and make it 4 in a row this weekend at Las Vegas. For Kyle Petty, Alexis Erickson, Brad Gillie, Styles, Kent Bernhardt, I'm Doug Rice. Thanks for making us a part of your listening. We'll be back next week with a whole bunch more Fast Talk.
Fast Talk was presented by Toyota. For the latest Toyota Gazoo racing information, visit tgrna.com. And by Sunoco. From NASCAR to your car, Sunoco Fuel helps your car reach peak performance. This is PRN, the Performance Racing Network.